Hi everyone, welcome to Python Osmosis, episode 8.5, the screencast that always returns a value. I'm Ryan Shea, and in this episode, we'll be talking about defining functions. So you may be familiar with subroutines or functions or procedures in other languages. In Python, you use the keyword def to create a function. We're going to create a function that will return a Fibonacci sequence, and we're going to call that fib. And the way that you do this, def fib, and then in parentheses you specify what you expect to be passed into it. So you can say n in this case. So whatever variable we pass into fib will be assigned to n in the local namespace. The first thing that you normally put in a function is sort of a description of the function. This is called a docstring, or a documentation string. And this is just a string literal, and it's just the first line of the function. And that can be used in things like IPython, like we're in right here, to give you a description of what the function does. So let's print a Fibonacci series up to n. Now, if you don't remember, a Fibonacci sequence is a sequence that's the next number is the addition of the prior two numbers. So let's go ahead and prime the pump by setting A and B to 0, 1, and then while B, the second number, is less than n, the number we passed into it, print B, comma. Comma will suppress the carriage return at the end of the line, and we'd like everything to end up returning on one line, so we're going to leave a comma in there. Then we're going to reassign A and B to, just like we said what the Fibonacci sequence does, is it sets the next number in the sequence to the last two. So we had 0, 1 to start out, then we're going to have 1, so B gets assigned to A, and then A plus B, 0 plus 1, gets assigned to B, and it's going to continue on like that. So that's our entire function. So let's take a look in the symbol table. We see that we have a function called fib, and there it is. So here's how you call our new Fibonacci sequence function. So let's do fib, and we'll pass in a number to it. Let's do 2000. And there you go. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. You see that that's the addition of the prior two. 1 plus 1 is 2, 1 plus 2 is 3, etc. So when we created that function, we now have in our local symbol table, we have this function object of fib. It also created a new symbol table. You notice when I typed whose, I didn't see A or B. That's in a new namespace for this function. Okay, so you can also assign a variable to a function. So let's say like f equals fib. So now we have two different names pointing at the same object, you see? And now we can call it as f of 100, for example. So that's pretty useful. Now, one thing to note is that this function didn't actually return anything. There was no return statement. It actually was just printing directly. So people who are into functional programming would say that this is wrong. This is a procedure, not a function. But in fact, there's always something returned. So if we did a print on this, print fib of 0, you'd see that none is returned. So there's always something returned from a function. We could actually rewrite this to be more functional. So let's take a look. Let's do def fib2, and we're going to pass n into that. Once again, our docstring, return a list containing the Fibonacci series up to n. We're going to initialize a empty list, and then we're going to do our same sort of thing that we did before. A, B equals 0, 1. That's sort of going to prime the pump. And then we're going to do while B is less than n, result.append b. Append is a method of a list type, so it's just one of the things that you can do to a list object. And we're going to append b, rather than printing it out as we did up in our prior function. We're just going to append onto this list b. And then a, b equals b, comma, a plus b. That's the magic of the Fibonacci sequence. And then at the end of this, we're going to go back a few, return result. So after that while loop concludes, we're going to have this list called result, and we're going to return that. So now we're going to see how to deal with a function that actually returns a value. So let's do f100, create a variable f100, equals fib2 100, and then you see we have fib2, we have f100, so print f100, and sure enough, you can tell by the square brackets, we have a list, and it is actually returned. Nothing is printed directly by the function. That's all for now. This screencast is directly inspired by the official Python tutorial by Guido van Rossum at python.org.